smile too much. I'm way too hot. I'm too spirited. I'm cool and red. Feel my dance is you. My girls are hit you. I love my soccer. All my ladies taste like sugar. I'm made in Ghana. I'm made in Ghana. I'm made in Ghana. I'm made in Ghana. You can take me to London. I'm made in Ghana. You can take me to Lagos, but I'm made in Ghana. 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 You can take me to London. I'm made in Ghana. You can take me to Lagos, but I'm made in
It's exactly 9 minutes after the 8 a.m. here in the studios of A1 Radio 101.1 megahertz. We want to continue the conversation this morning. Well, Mega Loans promotes from SG Ghana. If you're a growing business and you want to complete a project or you want to support your the education of your children or family, whatever you need, there is a lot going on with the SG Ghana Mega Loans. It's your turn now. With even lower, more competitive rates, achieving your dream is now possible with SG Ghana's Mega Loans promo. Salaried workers of SG Ghana, listed companies, pensioners, and eligible customers can access support for personal needs, family commitments, home projects, and so many more. There is still time from now till July 2026. Apply and enjoy big loans at small rates. Yes, very, very low rates, and a fast, hassle-free process that helps you to get moving sooner. Visit any SG Ghana branch near you, or you call 030-2214-314 for more details about the SG Ghana Mega Loans promo today. Remember, terms and conditions apply. Societe Generale Ghana. The future is you. Now, talking about keeping money safe, your money deserves the safest home, and that's why with Telecel Cash, you are protected every step of the way. No risk, no worries, no long stories, just peace of mind. Dial *110# or you download the Telecel Play app now for safer, secure transactions. Telecel Cash, the safer choice. Now, let me introduce my guest to you this morning. We are having an engagement with Emmanuel Awene Agang Zesum. Agang Zesum. Yes. So Emmanuel is a PhD candidate, and his research area is around the area of slave trade, and he's an advocate for museums in the region. Emmanuel, it's a pleasure having you this morning, and I'll be doing this interaction with my colleague Homo Kusum Tairu, and we will hear her voice subsequently. Emmanuel, I hope all is well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Great. Let's first get an understanding around your PhD study area. Why an interest in the area of slave trade?
Thank you for this opportunity. I had my first degree at the University of Cape Coast,
Right.
Completed 5 years ago. Did history. My major was actually on history, but after my degree, I started doing my national service there, and I did my research, reading a lot. And then I realized there's a lot on slavery, but Ghana, we often are not allowed to discuss the internal aspect of it. We often focused on the externalities. And even with that, northern Ghana history is often on the edge. We are often on the peripheral, even though we read a lot about the history, a lot of people were taken from the northern part of Ghana, particularly the upper regions. So this is one reason why I decided to actually focus on slavery and to allow people to get the narrative on the slave.
Mm.
So currently a 40-year PhD candidate of University, working on slavery, colonialism in northern Ghana, southern. And I'm saying that because basically those of us in northern Ghana and southern Burkina Faso, we are the same people, except that we've been divided by the colonial boundary. So I'm trying to kind of decolonize that boundary and then see us as one. So I've been to Kibeli, other places,
Mm. Mm. And I believe the stories you are getting are fascinating and interesting.
Well, quite interesting,
Mm.
especially on distance preparation, on healing, and a lot that actually have been discovered.
Mm.
So I'm learning every day. I've been in the region for almost more than a month, 2 months now. Aging. I've been to Yarga BC, been to Yorgo, Zare, Bongo,
Mm.
been to Tako, been to Sandman, Paga, a lot of places
Mm.
just to engage
Mm.
people, research, but also for future that we have.
Mm. Talking about reparations, what's your position on the entire conversation on reparations?
I think reparation is a good thing globally because there are three different communities that are actually demanding reparation. The Caribbeans, they were the answer taking. Then the Americans who also come to the African continent, they also demanding. But I think the way and money we are going about it is not really strategic. Reparation is a good thing, but you can't be on the global stage demanding reparation when you've not done your homework. There must be internal reparation, there must be reconciliation, and there must be healing. So before we seek international reparation, we as a people have to heal, we have to reconcile. But if you don't go to the community, you don't understand that people are still having that pain and shame of losing their loved ones.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it's difficult for them to talk about it. I've tried speaking to a lot of families, and actually they have to turn down their requests because they just can't withstand that history. And sometimes you think they don't know, they remember, except that they don't want to discuss the circumstance under which they lost their family member. I've been to Yarga Beach, sensitive, at the Chief Palace. Then that somebody was angry that we are discussing his great ancestor who was taken, but somebody fought to return him. I've been to Bongo Palace. He narrated the experience of his father, his great grandfather, who was taken slave to Sierra Leone. I've been to Mirigo, and I'm told of how women fought to preserve the history of that community and to protect the child who's today, whose offspring today are actually some of the Tindanas in Mirigo. So these are stories that have not been highlighted, and I'm trying to give space for our people to actually shape the narrative, and also for our brothers in diaspora to understand this whole seal of African complicity is not just true, because if you come to this part of the country, our people were not just victims, but that's why their victimry, they mounted resistance against the slave trade, and that narrative need to be shared to the world.
Right. Very interesting. I just wanted us to go on and on, but that'll be fine. Let's talk about the project that you are looking at, the Yanga Museum. Talk to us about the Yanga Museum.
Yeah, the Nyanga Museum is a project that is intended to create a space for the two communities, the communities that was left behind
Okay.
and those who were taken.
Okay.
So the ancestors of those who were left behind and the ancestors or descendants of those who were taken. I have done my research here in Northern Ghana and Southern Burkina, and I noticed that there's still people need a closure to what happened to the ancestors. Were they taken to Salga? What happened to them at Salga? What happened to them in Kumasi? Where did they remain in Kumasi? Did they remain at the coast or were they taken across? It's something that the people need to know. If you go to the Americas, the Caribbeans, a lot of our brothers there want to come back home. They need space. But I realize that anytime they get back to Ghana, there's no connection between them and those of us in this part of the country. They remain at the coast. And the coasts were just points of exits. They were points of embarkation. The points of origin were in the north, the Upper East region, the Upper West region, where northern southern Burkina Faso, where a lot of people taking. So I decided that okay, if that's the case, we need to create a platform that connect these two communities,
Right.
the African diaspora, so that when they come to Ghana, they don't just remain at the coast, at the slave dungeons, but they come to the north to connect to the very families that were taken. And even if you're not able to identify your family, the fact that you're in the region where your ancestors were taken, for me, is enough healing for them. Secondly, it brings closure to our ancestors here, our relatives who have no knowledge of where they were taken. Because if your relative was taken, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, his offspring are back home, it brings the closure to to the pain you are going through. So I was in Amsterdam a year ago, 2 years ago, to present the paper. I reached out to the media and said, okay, I'm from Ghana, created communities where people were taken. And then the Dutch also play an important role in this, during the slave trade. And even after the slave trade, when they had a Dutch East Indian War, they came to Ghana and they signed treaties with the South and came to exploit our people. So I suggested that okay, we need to have what we call a museum of healing and reconciliation. And I have refused to name this museum as a museum of healing. It's not just a museum of slavery. It's not just a museum of slavery, but a museum of healing and reconciliation. And we adopt the name the Nyanga because if you know Northern Ghana history or Upper East region, the Nyanga play an important role in protecting our ancestors, especially women and children against slavery. Those, you know, the Nyanga, we have the Sada, we have the Denia, those smaller room, and Kasim we call it Denia, and Bully we call it Dalong. It's an eight-shaped building with different chambers inside. And because of its dark nature, usually when slave traders are coming, women and children will run inside the dark room. And sometimes the raiders are afraid to enter because of the dark nature. At times also, because of the nature of the door, it's round entering. And you have to bend down, and you're bend out. After bending down, there's a wall blocking you.
Yes.
And that wall provides a covering for them to be able to hit any raider that comes in. So I've been to Mirigu and I've seen demonstration of how the Denyang are protected families. I've been to Sandema and I've seen how they preserve the Denyang. And so it is important that in juxtaposition against the slave dungeon in the coast, which was capturing our people, the Denyanga was providing rescue for our people. So it's the reason why we are naming it the Nyanga Museum of Healing and Reconstruction. And back to your question about reparation. We believe that before reparation, there must be healing and there must be reconciliation. And it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm here in the north just for the past 1 month in community, trying to speak to our people about reparation. What does reparation mean to them? What does healing mean to them? So that when we go to Accra, we're having a Accra convening, a conference. I'm not speaking from books I've read. I'm speaking from the feedback those who were affected are giving us, so that any conversation on reparation is geared towards what they want. In some communities, reparation is not about money. It's about the respect, the acknowledgement that the ancestors were taken. Because in Ghana, it's a conversation we don't want to have. And I understand after independence, Nkrumah said, we didn't talk about internal slavery because it's going to create. But we've gone past. History is known, like people are writing a lot. And I think we have to be honest about complicity. That some people, because of external pressure, participate in the slave trade. Today, I cannot revenge because you take my ancestors. I cannot kill you. But let's judge what our ancestors was wrong. What can we do to build tension? And that's what the Sandman now was telling me, that we have to create a platform here in the north, Ghana, for chiefs, for various groups to come together to heal, reconcile before we can vision externally. And I think that's what I'm trying to do.
Let's talk about the Accra Convening. Accra Convening, talk to us about it. What is it all about? What's the rationale behind the Accra Convening?
Yeah, a lot of people have questioned why we even have such a program at Accra. But the Accra Convening is create a platform for scholars, policymakers, historians to converge. One, to create awareness about what we are doing, about the museum project, and to rally support internationally and locally. And we specifically chose Accra because of the proximity to other places, the fact that a lot of the diaspora brothers in America, and this is summertime, a lot of them are conference. We actually have the Ghana State Association conference that's happening in Kumasi. I'll be going there shortly. So one, the convene is to create that public awareness about what we are doing. Second, to let the world and Ghanaians know that there are people in the north who are still feeling the effects of the slave trade. Because there's often this idea that it's a foregone conclusion. People don't remember what had happened, but they remember. I've been to places in Mirigo and in Telewongo and Seko, and you go to the houses, they have round buildings that is preserve the souls of those who were taken. Because in our tradition, if someone passes away or dies and you can't find the body and don't know what happened, it's often difficult to perform the funeral. And if you don't do that, the ghost is helping you. So they have to preserve a place for the ghost of this individual. And we think that having our brothers come back home, one provide closure, some of this and that are actually going. So the Accra Convening one is get that support, but also tell the world that there are people up here who still remember. You know, when the president started this issue about reparation, there was a lot of conversation about the fact that the Ghana that doesn't deserve reparation because we are complicit, and that is actually ignorance. Of course, some select few were complicit in the slave trade, but a lot of us, particularly in this part of the country, the upper regions, our ancestors were victims, and despite their victimry, they mounted resistance. They used both their build and their natural environment against slave trade. Even in Bukeri here, we know the role women play in fighting against slavery, fighting against colonialism. So this museum, like I normally tell people, it's not just about the slave trade. It's about Northern history. And you all agree with me that Northern Ghana history has been misunderstood, ignored, or completely forgotten. Yeah, and because we don't have the structure to shape our narrative, because if you don't have the structures to tell the world what happened, somebody will sell your story in a manner that actually glorifies him. So the Nyanga Museum is to create that platform for our ancestors, for our people, shape the narrative of our Ghanaian history.
Right.
Of course, you cannot talk about modern Ghana without Northern Ghana, because even before colonialism, Northern Ghana played a role in industrializing the whole of Ghana. All the major cities you go, people of Northern extraction go build the city of Kumasi, Wasi, talk of Takiti, all the cities you can talk about. So another aspect of the museum is to create that platform, create that narrative, centrality of Northern Ghana in the making of. Secondly, when we started this consultation, I've consulted a lot of people, including Tamale in Upper West, yeah. And then we decided that, okay, the museum should be in Navrongo. We're thinking of Boga in Navrongo. But because it's not an Upper East thing and it's a Northern Ghana thing, there was a suggestion of you send it to Salga because of the Salga market. Some said Paga. And I said, if you have to send the museum to another place, it's neither going to be Paga or Salga for important reason. Because Salga and Paga were site of exploitation. They are relics of how our ancestors were dehumanized. So we don't want to use the architecture of exploitation for an architecture of memory.
Right.
So if it's going to be in any place, either it's going to be in Golu, Navrongo, or Sandima, because these are places that show how ancestors resisted. So of course, the Paga narrative is very important. We need to preserve it. The Salga narrative is important, but we're not going to use the relics of exploitation or the relics of dehumanization to tell our story. That would be a mistake. So I tell people we need to protect Paga slave camp. We need to preserve it. It is important. Salga is important. But Navrongo, of course, if you look at Navrongo history, they play an important role in fighting against slave raiders. Navrongo was a center. The caravans passed through Navrongo, through Doba, to Mirigu. So they fought. Actually, there was a time where they had to select people who were well built, protect the people to fight against slave. But the focus has often been on Paga and Sandema. And Navrongo and the East coming to Boga, going to Jorgo and Bongo.
Those are the slave routes.
Yeah, we don't pay attention. Gori was a part, a slave route.
Oh, okay.
A lot happened there. So if you don't go to the community to engage, you think that's only maybe Salga and Paga about. I tell people that these important things are, but the museum is not about victimry, not about victimization. It's about resilience. I've been to Zeko. One thing, why when our people go up, down, south, they don't want, sometimes they're ashamed to tell their narrative, to identify themselves, it's because of the stigma. Because in the Southern imagination, if you say a northerner, to them, they are using the memories of the slave trade and colonialism. At the point the British decided to reserve the North as a pool of labor to build the South. So they deny us education, they deny us development because they needed cheaper labor here to develop the South. So in the Southern imagination, when you see somebody of Northern extraction, you are seeing civil labor engaged in all these menial jobs. And that is a stigma that we are still going through. when Muhammad became president in the first term, I wrote a paper. There's a lot of stereotype that have been used against him because to some people, he comes from a place where the ancestors were taken as slaves. So there's that memory that is shaping identity formation. That's one aspect of my PhD to understand how memory of the slave trade and British colonial policy is shaping identity formation and stereotypical narrative in modern Ghana. That you look at Hilary Lima, what are the things that were said about Hilary Lima when he chose to become a president? Read the graphics and realize that the reference to him and the attack on him was because he came from a part of the country where, to some people, their ancestors were taking them as slaves. So they cannot understand or fathom how such a person becomes a president. And that's memory for you. So I'm saying that we are not going to use the relics of the humanization as an architecture for what we want to shape our story. So it is important that we all rally to support this identity, make sure that it becomes a
I want to come in here and if there's so much record to support that majority of the slaves came from northern Ghana, southern Burkina, how is it that when we have these programs, emancipation, Pan Affairs, they return, in 2009,
and then beyond the return,
the government started that year of return, where they marked that 400 years ago, we had the first ever record of enslaved, Africans arriving in English North. Why are these celebrations not done in northern Ghana, especially at the places where it happens, but rather in South? You are involved and you meet all these people all the time. What's your response to it?
I think there are two reasons. One, northern Ghana, because of what I said about the stigma and the pain and the shame of losing loved ones, we are using silence as a protective mechanism against stigma. We don't talk about that experience. And because of that, we don't get involved. Secondly, it's also because of policy and what is happening in the South. The focus has been on the slave coast, and realize that unfortunately or ironically, when our people come, they identify themselves as Akans, as Asante, or as Fantis. And there's a reason to that. It's because of erasure. A lot of them, before they were taken to the South, they lost their identity. So when they were taken from here to Salga, they were sold. Some of them went to Asante and they were on plantation before they were sold to the coast. So before the person was sold, he had adopted Asante names or Akan names, maybe not. And so no Asante, also the voter part to play an important role. Often focus on Asante, but I want to make this clarification that what we are doing, we can't be using the word. It's not ethnic attribution because the Asante today is not the Asante that we have. Those who are Asante today, most of them are also Northerners. Those who are Fantis today, most of them are also Northerners. And the Sandman said something that he respect and revere Fantis so much because he thinks that most of them are his ancestors, right? But there's the likelihood that after the abolition, a lot of them stayed in Asante, a lot of them stayed in Cape Coast and adopted Fanti identity and adopted Asante identity. So you come today be saying that Asante this the two because those who are Asante today are actually Northerners.
There was a family that traced themselves back to the Sandeman Chief's Palace. Yes, from Cape Coast.
Yes.
And
so we have to be very, very careful about this attribution. So to answer your question, it's also because the structures are all in the coast.
Right.
And so when our brothers come, there's nothing that connects them to the north. And it's now that some of us are beginning to get involved in telling this narrative. The first person who started is actually Professor Emmanuel Saboro on the slave. He focused on Sandman and the Katana aspect. My focus is largely on the east. So Navrongo coming to the east and going to southern. We are trying to shape that narrative to ensure that we center northern Ghana in that history. And like I said, even when you talk about northern Ghana history, it's often if you read the whole literature, it's often on either the Gomba or Mampusi or the kingdoms.
Yes.
But our focus is on the upper region. But the museum is not about the upper region, it's about northern Ghana and southern Burkina Faso. So yes, if you look at the year of return, a lot of the conversation on the south, even when I was telling somebody, when the president went to New York quite recently, the chief that went when there was the chief from Cape Coast, no northern chief was represented. It's because we are not active in this conversation. What we are doing, the Accra convening gives our chief the platform. Come and let their voices be heard. That's what I'm trying to encourage the chief to participate. Those who can afford, they should be at the Accra convening so that we let the world and Ghanaians know that, of course, we haven't forgotten. We are forgiving, but we haven't forgotten, and we can never forget about that our loss. So yeah, it's a matter of policy. We are making the effort to ensure that whatever that is happening nationally, northern chiefs are represented. Now, which northern chief has the resources to go to the Caribbean and engage them? Which northern chief had the resources to go to the US and engage Black Americans? And the southern chiefs that go there because they have the resources to do that. So we as a people have to mobilize and ensure that we support our leaders to build that connection. And we are thinking that the museum create that platform so that when African Americans come to Ghana, they're able to connect home. So the museum is going to be a complex, structure. It's going to be three important components. We have the digital aspect, library, and exhibition where you see the normal museum. We also have the research, which is going to drive research to bring money to the community so that this employment. Secondly, and most importantly, which deals with the healing aspect, a platform for reconciliation and healing, where families who lost their loved ones, I've identified a lot of families region that have lost their loved ones. Some of them are willing to mention their names to connect them to the African Americans who want to connect to their root. A lot of them are spending resources, but unfortunately, they come to Southern Ghana and they can't do that. They just say, I'm a Khan, I'm a Santi, but
It ends there.
it ends there. We wanted to come back home and connect to the very families that were lost their life. I've been to Zeko Palace, and a story was told about how one of the chief's sons taken to Sierra Leone, but quite unfortunately for him, slavery was abolished. So he remained there, married a Yoruba woman, and he died. But the son had to trace back and come back to Zeko to connect with their family. So these are important story or narratives that need to be told. And the African American, those of us who have been to the state and we are there, there's this kind of friction between us and them because there's this assumption that our ancestors were complicit in slave trade. And I tell them my research focuses on what I call raided communities that were raided during the slave trade. And for them, they were victims. And that's why they are victim rate. They mounted resistance against the slave. And so they need to know this history. And if we don't create that platform, those people will not know. We are hoping that once the museum is established, they can come back here and connect and get to know.
Very interesting.
The other youth movement.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware of them.
Yes.
How collaborative you and them?
So we haven't really built that formal collaboration, but I think say Mr. Chairman will be Aboro will be at their crowd convening.
Okay.
I think they registered. They actually invited us. The reunion, and the one in charge of the reunion and myself, we engaged the professor. We spoke before she came here. I think I have a meeting with them. So my celebrating with them. So we have that kind of. We're hoping that after the convening, we'll come together and see how we can.
Yeah, because you seem to be, advocating for similar things.
Similar things.
Yeah.
And I like the bit about the DNA test that they did. It actually gives more clarity, and it goes to buttress the point that indeed a lot of the people came from northern Ghana, especially in this part of the
Yes. And I told David Laskish that her work is not African diaspora. It's also for our brothers to take the DNA, know where they actually come from. Once that is done, it unites.
Yeah.
Even though I'm this bad,
We are all one.
We are all one people. So those let's volunteer and take the DNA test to see where they actually come from. For me, we want to use history to unite. No, we have a situation where a group of people use history to divide. But our aim is that we use history to unite our people, to tell them our commonality, that we are actually maybe speaking different languages, but actually saying we are one people, right? I'm Nankani, but I speak almost all northern languages here, right? Apart from the fact that I feel language that are different, but I speak all northern, and I see myself as one, right? So we should use history to unite and not to sort of divide ourselves. So that's also very important.
So that Cracovinian, where exactly is it going to take place? Is it a maiden event or it's been in existence?
Yeah, it is the maiden event. It's happening at the University of Ghana, Legon campus, at the West African Medicine Center auditorium. It's about 200 people. Registration has started. I'm urging people, if you're in the region, you have the capacity to attend, please do register. If you go online, you just Google or type the Nyanga Museum, everything will be there for you. We have a website. We have a lot of people from the region that are actually part of the project. Our own son, Professor Emmanuel Vienso, is part of our board. He's also going to be speaking at the event. We have our own Awandare, Provost Chancellor of the University of Ghana, also part of our. We are in attendance as well. There are people from Congo who will be the mayoral care. Supari will be in attendance at the Accra Convention. Then, of course, Chief Alasan Antani, he's the board chair. He's actually the patron for the museum. So he'll be in attendance. Action. So we are encouraging our fathers, our brothers who are here.
So what does it take? Who qualifies to attend?
Anybody at all can just walk in.
So it's open to the public.
Yeah, it's open to the public.
You have to pay something?
You don't have to pay something. But if you can register, it's good to register. We can prepare ahead of. We open to the public. There's also rally for support. If you are a business entity and want to support, you want that platform for you to shape whatever, promote whatever we want to do up there, we are encouraged to reach out to us because we have two panels. And one panel is about route of return. There are going to be people from the land in the Upper East region who will be engaging with the African diaspora about the need to return. Another panel will focus on business opportunity in the region. And we want to encourage the diaspora to come back and invest in the region. And so we have business. We have Avonseke, the lady who does fashion. She'll be a speaker at the event to engage the diaspora. Benson is going to be speaking because these are business people, and he has fantastic idea about creating industrial zone in the region. So we're going to have Benson on the platform to engage with the African diaspora, to encourage them to come back home and develop. So if you're a business person listening to me, want that platform to we want opportunity. We actually give opportunity to be part of the panelists. We are still looking. We are trying to identify a few business driving that we can put on the platform. We can reach out to.
I'm interested about the construction of the museum. It's going to be capital intensive, and
Yes.
it's probably not a one-day event. It's not a
Yeah.
one-day project. Have you already started sourcing funding for the project, or there's going to be a local collaboration to get this done?
So the good thing is that this museum is going to be community owned, community led. And so what we're trying to do is that for us to create that sense of sovereignty and community ownership, we want to make sure that there's that in the initial seed capital funding is from Ghana or it's from the region that people can volunteer to support. And if you think there's any like what I've discussed, the story that you want us to share with me, you can actually reach out to the station or any Ghana or come and listen to you. If you have any artifact that you think is important for a story about colonialism or slavery, you can reach out to us for us to get it. So the museum, the good thing is that when I started this project, people say, "Oh, it's not going to work in the region because of the division." For me, I'm not so much worried about funding, about because of the experience. But quite fortunate for us, we're not going to. But for us to tell the international community that we have that sense of self, we want to mobilize support, and that's one of the aim of the Accra conference, to mobilize seed capital to start. And we get certain people. I do a lot of like so. This what I'm doing here is my own stipend that I'm using to pay this to spend to all community people are sponsoring event. But I am not really. It's going to take 5 to 6 but we want to ensure that the community contributing to the project in different way.
Mm.
So yeah, we mostly will be engaging with
Mm.
our external partners. We have partners. Some of them are formal collaboration, letters to collaborate and level. Some of them be attending the conference as
Right.
well. I don't want to lose a lot of them,
Right.
but I have
That's fine.
significant support from other places who have reached out, wanted to contribute to the architecture, wanted to contribute to design the whole thing.
Mm.
But we are trying to make sure that we don't just use that the architects are coming from. We are going to Burkina Faso to learn about some of the indigenous building stuff.
That was actually a question that ran through. Will the architecture reflect our story, and will it have a sense of ownership in the building, in the architectural design?
Yeah, very well.
Mm.
That was going to be the case
Mm.
because the first that we're going to start is the Denyanga. We're going to use mud building, our
Sure.
normal building. So we are hoping that by October, November, we'll get the communities involved.
Mm.
You know how we build our structures. These
mhm.
days, you use the grasses
Grasses. Yes.
with the mud and
Mm.
build it.
Build
So
it.
we're going to have that demonstration in November or before December at the location and build the actual Denyanga. We are going to have villages to demonstrate how raiders were coming and entering houses even before the actual museum itself. So that when visitors come, they can have an experience. They'll go to the Denyanga. You know, the Denyanga, there's also an escape from their
Mhm.
different ways. So all those things we done to depict our story. So the museum is not just about slavery, it's also about colonialism and how people were deliberately depopulated. There's a lot in the archives that we don't know. Have you wondered why Bongo was depopulated? Why the people of Bongo were sent to the south? Because the British were afraid that the Bongos, quote unquote, were rebellious. But when I read the archives, I don't say they were rebellious, they were resisting. So that's the language they have to use. So the opposite side may say they were rebellious, but if you understand, they were protecting their humanity. So we need to do this stuff. Even how in Navrongo, Paga, Sandma fought resisted slave trade. And I tell people, man did not just resist. They abolished the slave trade before the English abolished. So that must be emphasized that Sandman abolished slave trade in northern Ghana. For the Busa fought and killed slave raiders. And we know how even Samori and Diako Babatu's wife was. That need to be told. I've been to Murigan and told of how a woman was at the compounding millet, threshing millet with a pistol and then a raider came to her and she has to use the pistol. That story, the world. We know of Apoka. How many people in southern Ghana know of Apoka? Compare what Apoka did to what
Yes,
Yansantwa did,
Antoine.
right? It's because you don't have the platform to shape that narrative. What Yansantwa did cannot be compared to what Apoka did, right? But no one tells the story of Apoka because you have
Emmanuel,
the platform.
there's from my interaction initially before we started, I told you of my desire, my interest in the area of this. There's a gap of literature about the northern, about just entirely the northern story,
Yeah.
and this representation in
Yeah.
in national literature.
Yeah.
I was asking just a question that I remember from primary school through to even the university. If you read about the history of Ghana, especially when emancipation, little is said about Poro. Little is mentioned about Pigu slave market. Little is mentioned about the Salaga slave market. Meaning that we need to encourage the advanced recollection of our literature.
Yes.
Are people interested from northern Ghana in your interaction, interested in the history of northern Ghana, and are they ready to write about it for documentation sake?
People are interested in history,
Mhm.
and so some people just want to document history and get their degree. So they can come to Nottingham and write anything just to get their degree. But how are they shaping that narrative?
Mm.
That's another aspect. The challenge we have in the North is that because of the level of poverty, how many people do want to encourage their kids to go and do history? I had to fight to get to go to university to do history, right? Even today, like, oh, yeah, brilliant student. Why are you doing history?
Mm.
And because
It
of how
doesn't pay.
it doesn't pay.
Yeah.
But I'm okay, I'm comfortable, I enjoy what I'm doing.
Mm.
I spend my own money to do all this, but I think I'm okay because history is so important, right? I am from Navrongo. I trace my history back to Mirugu. I'm saying I'm Nankana or Frafra or Brunyan, even though there's nothing like Frafra in Ghana. We don't have anything like and when I come to Bulgaria, I tell them about they're all Nankansi. There's nothing like Bruni or there's nothing like Frafra. We're all Nankansi, Ninkarasi. But if I trace back to Mirugu, Mirugu may call themselves Nankansi, but they're actually not Nankansi, they are Moses, right? The Roman people will trace themselves back to where? Zeko. Ninkarasis. Then if you go to Doba, Doba has connection to Simbron, right? Simbron has connection to Borga, Shirga, and all those. So we need that history to connect the unity, right? To connect us, to bring us together. So there are people who are just interested in history because they think that they can get their degree. But for us, for me, I think that history can be used to, right, to unite people and to tell people that okay, you may think you are this, but if you really read your history, you're actually this. Therefore, don't look down for another person because if you trace well, you realize that you're actually the people you're insulting or you undermine. So that's the value of history. I was born in South. And to tell you, we have places called Moshi Zongo, and you know, there's always certain
Yeah.
perception about certain people.
Yeah.
Today I can say I'm Moshi, right? I can say I'm Nankansi. I can say I'm Nan based on where I want to treat myself because of my mother's lineage. Even though my mother traced herself back to Chibeli, I thought Chibeli people were Kasnes. Until I went to Chibeli and I realized they're not Kasnes, they're actually the Moshis who came and settled there. So there's a lot that we have to learn. And there's a connection between Navrongo, Paga, Sandeman, all those places. I was at the San Chief Palace and he was telling me a lot about the connection they have it with other places. So these are important things that we ought to know, cultivate.
But if we are so much lost in the annals of literature, does it surprise you that universities strategically positioned in northern Ghana do not have history that should tackle this gap that is lost?
Yeah, right. I think I'm in conversation with the investor Navrongo. So I've had conversation with them. I think some informal conversation, and we are trying to what we're trying to do is also to partner with them as a research institute. I've spoken with ASA on several occasions how we can have an African center there to center our history or funding. But it's good to do science. We need to expand the university. For that university to expand, we need to introduce other concepts. Tech was a science, purely science, but I realized that you need the human resources, you need people. So I'm happy that the university is opening up, showing that if you go there, it's depopulated. People have invested there, put infrastructures there, hostel is not being occupied because of the change in it. So we need to actually expand that university. And I'm happy that they spoke to me and there was an offer to me a proposal how we can collaborate, and I'm hoping that when I return other people digital human bring an African center here. We have two African centers. We have one at Lagos, the Institute of African Studies, and then one at the University of Cape. But most of the time, they get the money and they come here to do the research, do the engagement, the interviews, and everything. So once we have one, either here in the Upper East or in the Upper West, it helps with research, running, and everything. So I think UDS, not the name, UTAS
UTAS.
is actually opening up. We have to encourage our people to write more about history, and I know the poverty level might not encourage people in history, but we have to work. And I think the
But
region is
but if we do it well, it will pay.
yeah, it pays. It pays.
Yeah.
Of course, there are a lot of people. I don't want to talk about it, but I'm into research, and it pays to do research. Even before I travel,
As if you're able to get a very good proposal.
yeah,
right?
proposal to do your research. I've been doing my research even before I travel, and it pays to do research in the region. So you just have to be passionate about what you're doing. If you chase money, you may enjoy it. Just focus. I mean, 2021, I was here, my research, and it's that is initial research that actually open my distance. I was working on political history of Navarro, then I can say, and then I realized I went to Ghana, I realized, oh, slavery was happening. So, oh, when at the high school level, when they talk about slavery, they only talk about relative.
Mm.
And the British came and colonized our ancestors.
That is the
And
gap in
the
history
gap,
that
they
I'm
don't talk
talking
about our
about.
involvement and
Yeah.
even the fact this the victories, even down people here won. I've been to places where they showed me graveyard of slave raiders. But because of unity, they will not mention them because oh, this ethnic group will kill them. Don't tell you. And I think that's very important. But good enough, there are several graveyards of slave raiders that they buried. It's there. You go to Seko, they'll tell you in their songs. You go to Para, listen to their songs, you realize that their stories of victories. You go to Navrongo, the same stories of victory. You go to Mirigo, the same thing. You go to Yarga BC, the same thing. So I'm happy. And one thing I've learned is the wisdom from our elderly people. They are so knowledgeable. And initially I was like, do they have the vocabulary? The vocabulary killing. But amazes this the lot that they are saying. And I'll beat my chest to the Tindana. What the Tindanas tells me is different from what they see. And I'm not surprised because the Tindanas are more focused on healing, uniting the community. Oh, we need to form liberation. We don't need money. If you give us money for reparations and insult, you pay for the souls of our ancestors who were taken. So don't come to me talking about payment. Come to me talking about penance, repentance. I'm sorry for what I did. And then from there we can take any other conversation. And that is what I've been to here in Boko and in Bongo here. I've been to Navrongo, I've been to Namolo, and then I've been to Nosinyat and Dan. And these are the stories that are telling me about preparation. It's about peanuts. It's about acknowledgement. No, you don't. If you never acknowledge that, we know that your ancestors were taken, and therefore we want to. We are sorry. We are not being. I went to Namolo and I said, we need to put for location. Of course, take somebody in. The same thing that Yariga people are telling. So you can't be in Accra and be advocating for something when you've not consulted the communities that were directly affected. And that's why our work is different from what is happening internationally, what the government is doing. So what the government is doing is good. We can applaud them, but we can do it differently. We have to engage the community. Because if we get money from